Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's video, I want to show you how to make a basic planting hole, in this case for a tomato plant, but you can use the same principles for planting other plants, in clay soil, in soil that's, not the best. And the whole goal for this video is to teach you that you can use minimal resources, spend minimal money, create a planting hole, put a tomato in it, walk away, and you're going to have a beautiful tomato plant. In fact, we're going to let the tomato plant grow here. The space that I'm going to use is not my garden. Please subscribe and follow me. I'll show you how this tomato plant does over 2023, and I'll be doing a lot of videos on this principle. How do you set up soil? Minimal cost, minimal resources. This is basic clay soil. This is what a lot of my garden is like before I fixed it up over the last 4 or 5 years. So we're going to set a planting hole up right here. I'm going to put a tomato plant in there, protect it because I do have deer out here. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to set this up. First thing, we're going to dig a hole about 12 inches deep, 12 inches wide, right into the clay soil. I'm going to do the first planting hole right here in heavy, clay soil. I'm going to do another one inside my fence in a different part of the property that has similar soil. I just want to grow the tomato in there so it's protected, so I can show you how it grows over the season. This is the basic setup if you don't have any amendments. In the second hole that I'm going to show you how to plant, we're going to use compost that I've been making over the last years. Compost is something that you want to get started in your garden or your area as soon as you can. So if you have nothing, you want to get a bag of peat moss. If you don't like peat moss, you can get cocoa coir, but you want one of those products because it's going to hold water. It's nice and loose, and that's what we're going to do right in here where the base of the tomato plant would go in, the root system would go. And again, you could use this for peppers, cucumbers, squash, zucchini. This is just a nice basic way to set up a hole with poor soil. What's the benefit? Well, you could do 6 of these holes in a 4x6 or 4x8 space and not spend money to convert over that entire space. Just concentrate on the hole, and then the other area will take care of itself over time when you're putting down leaf mulch or grass mulch or other kind of organic matter in there. But for growing the plant for the year, you're just going to concentrate everything right here. You're going to need an organic granular fertilizer. Any organic granular works. It's basically dried granule fertilizer made up typically of bone meal, blood meal, chicken manure, alfalfa, etc. They're all the same as long as it has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium represented on it. And that's when you look at the numbers. I'm not sure I can find it real quick on here, but I think this is a 533 NP and K. You're going to take one big handful, throw it into the base. You never want to plant straight onto that. So we're going to mix it in using, a little hand shovel. You want to put in 2 scoops, not of raisins, of peat moss, and then mix it in. Let me put in the other scoop. And I'm also going to take 2 scoops and mix it across the clay up here. Loosen that up a little bit. On top of here, big handful, just scatter around the granular fertilizer. This is a slow release, so this is going to feed over the season this year, late spring through the summer. You may also want to pick up a water-soluble fertilizer, which I'll talk about in the end. Quick setup, just like this. 2 scoops in the hole, second one across the clay that we took out or the soil we took out. And your soil's going to vary. If we had compost instead of the peat, we would be using compost, or we could do half compost, half peat. You can really kind of mix it up as you wish. If it was more compost in here, I wouldn't add in the 3rd scoop of or handful of organic granular that I'm going to throw in there. So we're going to just mix this all up. Get in, start just mixing the peat moss through everything, get your shovel into there, mix everything up nicely, blend it together. Put a little effort in to making sure it's as even as you can, and then we'll get to the next step. Now, by no means do you have to be perfect here. So this is just mixing the peat through the soil down in the hole, and it looks pretty good. Well blended, break up the chunks. I would pull in some more of the soil that I didn't really mix through, try and keep the weeds out. And then I would mix this through, kind of just even it out. Don't worry that you have to be perfect with this. This is what the planting hole is going to look like. Perfectly fine for growing any vegetable plant in there. Another handful. If I was using a compost again, I would not do this step. Sprinkle it around, and you have plenty of fertilizer. This again is a slow release, so this has to break down with soil biology, feed the plant slowly. I recommend for something like this and for your garden, you really want a water-soluble fertilizer. A water-soluble fertilizer is immediately available. The nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is immediately available to the plant, so it can use it right away. So we would put in our tomato plant right here, just dig a hole, drop it in. We could put in our pepper plants. If we wanted to put in cucumber plants, 1, 2, 3 seeds, about a ½ inch deep. We'd remove one, grow two. If we wanted to put in squash or zucchini, 2 seeds, remove one, let one grow. This is perfect for any garden. This is a great way to save money, save resources, get started. The whole goal for me with my YouTube channel is to help teach people different ways to grow food, and I want to encourage you to get started. In this space now, we will put down some mulch, you know, maybe like a 2-foot radius circle, leaf, grass, something like that, and we would just let the plant grow. Now this is outside my main garden in fenced area, so I don't want to start growing a tomato here and it doesn't work. So let me go set up this same idea in my front yard that's fenced in using the same type of soil. We're inside my front yard where I have a small garden. In here, for the last couple of years, I grew strawberries, and you can see that clay soil still persists. Not as red as the clay that we did in the first planting hole. Second year, that hole might look something like this, and you can do the same thing again. And again, you can conserve resources. So we're going to put in some of my leaf mold. That's compost. Any kind of compost that's fully broken down you can use. And I would do the same thing here. Because I buy my stuff on sale, I don't mind throwing in some extra organic granular. You could skip this step because you are using compost, but I would throw in a handful, decide if you want to do that or not. Let me grab one more handful real quick. That's an Alberta peach tree actually, right here in case you're wondering, dwarf tree. I'm going to grow the cherry tomato, this one right in here, and I'm going to grow it through and around the tree just for fun. The organic granular, and then 2 scoops of compost are going to go into there, some across here, and I'll set up the planting hole. You can kind of do a hybrid, you know, using a combination of the 2 ways that I showed you to set up the planting hole. This is perfectly fine. You know, if your soil's better, maybe you don't need as much compost. Maybe you want to do half peat moss because you really have a trouble with the heat in your area. You want something to hold more water. Organic granular, you can't really overdo it. So scatter it through there. It's going to slow feed. And then we're going to water it in with a water-soluble fertilizer. That's AgroThrive. I'm affiliated with them. You can find them in the video description. The water-soluble will get the tomato plant off to a great start. I'll be doing future videos on fertilizing and feeding. We tend to overdo it, overlove, use too much commercial fertilizer, organic or not. So I want to show you how you can kind of slow that down, save some money, and you're still going to get beautiful plants. But this looks pretty good. You know, mixed through. It's still clay. If I squeeze it together, it doesn't break apart. But there's no rush. Slow and steady. It's going to build the soil. It's going to build your garden. So I would just pull, well, first of all, the main root system is going to grow into here. So you really want to work this up nicely. Up top, it will get surface roots, so you don't have to blend it together perfectly. And I would just pull in everything just like that. This is going to be the main planting area. Let me get this set up, and then we'll put the tomato in, and I actually want to come back, mulch this space, mulch the other planting hole, so you can get an idea of the size that we're working with here. This is about the size of the space. I'm going to plant the tomato plant with one hand, you know, something like that. Instead of doing the entire bed, or kind of moving over here, clearing out this bed, and putting in a lot of amendments and spending more money, you can do these planting holes. They work every time, and you can keep doing it. So we're going to plant the tomato plant to about 1/3 of the way down. Tomato plant will send roots down from here. That's going to get into all the good stuff. They will go deeper, and it will also send out shallow roots. Shallow roots will move through here. The roots of the tomato plants or whatever you're planting, you know, minus, you know, a peach tree. I don't necessarily recommend that. Those roots will loosen up all the soil. Worms will come in, loosen up your soil. Your plant's going to do well right here. You save some money, you save some time, you conserved resources. Again, putting down that mulch all over here keeps moisture in, keeps the soil life happy, and that mulch will break down and get incorporated into your soil. You don't have to go full speed and have think you have to have perfect soil to start. We're taking the leaves off. We're going to take those off too. And I want to drop it down to about here. You know, a third, maybe to half, depending on the size of your plant. You can gently loosen up the root ball. And then just slowly, let me do that right, put it into place. You'd want to put in a 6-foot stake. Cherry tomatoes get big. Just put it in here now before the roots start growing out. You probably wouldn't damage them anyway, but put in the stake before the roots grow out. Now, this guy's pretty much set up. It has compost. If it didn't have compost, it would have peat moss to loosen the soil, hold water. Has the organic granular in there, and then we're going to give it a nice big drink of the water-soluble fertilizer. And that is really, to be honest, plenty of fertilizer either way that we're setting this up. Compost always adds benefits, but even the other planting hole, using the granular, the water soluble, that's going to have enough fertilizer in here to get this plant to flowering, starting to produce fruit, and maybe mid-season we give it a top dressing of compost around there. I'll show you what that is if you want to follow me. Maybe sprinkle down the organic granular or hit it with the water soluble, but we don't have to go crazy with it. All right, let me set this up with the mulch so you can kind of see the final product. This is pretty much what it looks like when it's done. It's got a little post in there for training wheels. It's going to need a much larger post. Because I put a transplant in, I could put the mulch down right up to it. If we were going to put seeds in, we would just not put the mulch down where we put the seeds, put the mulch everywhere else. Let me show you that first planting hole. And we're back to where we started. If you were, as I was saying, going to put seeds in here, you would just leave, you know, the center open, and then you just half-inch holes for your cukes, your squash, your zucchini. That's all you need to do. Once the plants are up, you would put mulch over there. This is a couple ways to set up a basic planting hole. Again, save money, conserve resources, get your plants out into the garden. That's what I want to stress, is to get into your gardens and just start practicing and experimenting. You know, maybe you don't want a garden that is as large as mine. You just don't have the time for it. It's way too overwhelming. Even a couple beds is too overwhelming. You could set up 3 or 4, 5 planting holes like this, do a couple tomatoes, some peppers, maybe a cucumber plant, and you can really tuck these in anywhere that you want to. You do need protection from deer, from rabbits, but you can kind of look for a space on your property. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. I'll show you how I use this principle to direct seed squash, zucchini, cucumbers, and I'll just show you how I take care of this entire garden for 2023. And remember, a garden wants to give. All we have to do is help it along. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and thanks so much for watching.